Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive logistical challenge where one wrong spec can literally cost you thousands. We're talking about sourcing fuel tanker trucks from China. If you're managing a fleet, directing logistics, or planning a huge equipment purchase, well, consider this your blueprint. We're going to completely deconstruct exactly how to evaluate these specialized machines so you can buy with absolute confidence.
Let's kick things off with a pretty critical question. What specifications should you actually check when buying from China? Look, importing special vehicles isn't like just ordering standard consumer goods online. It's a high-stakes puzzle of complex configurations, strict safety laws, and heavy-duty engineering. So, the crucial point is this. Buying based solely on a cheap price tag, it completely ignores critical vehicle configurations, compliance requirements, and quite frankly, fatal safety risks. We are talking about highly combustible liquid transport here. Securing a cheap deal is a massive risk to your entire operation if the engineering and safety mechanisms don't hold up in an emergency.
To navigate all of this, we're going to construct this vehicle layer by layer from the ground up. We'll go beyond the price tag, look at chassis and payload capacity, figure out choosing tank materials, break down crucial safety equipment, and finish up with smart sourcing from China.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1. Beyond the price tag.
Before we really get into the weeds, let's just establish a quick baseline. At its core, a fuel tanker truck is a commercial truck chassis paired with a specialized cylindrical or sometimes elliptical tank body. Its one and only job is to safely store and transport petroleum-based liquids. But, it's so much more than just a big metal tank on wheels. It's a fully integrated machine. It requires pumping systems, safety valves, discharge pipes, all of which are absolutely essential for daily operations for logistics companies, municipalities, and airports.
Moving right along to Section 2, chassis and payload capacity.
Now, the chassis you choose is basically your foundational layer. It dictates your road performance and your absolute payload limit. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive variance in capacity based on where you're operating. A 4x2 chassis maxes out around 12,000 liters. This is your agile option, right? Best for tight urban fuel deliveries. But if you're doing massive, long-distance highway transport, you absolutely need the heavy-duty 8x4 chassis, which scales your capacity all the way up to 35,000 liters. To put that into perspective, that is 35,000 liters of highly combustible fuel hurtling down the highway. The stakes are literally immense.
Of course, maximizing that payload often requires some versatility, and that is exactly where tank compartments come into play. By dividing a single tank into multiple independent sections, a single truck can transport different fuel grades simultaneously. It's a real game changer. Because each compartment gets its very own independent discharge valve and manhole cover, you can carry regular petrol and diesel on the exact same run. You're effectively doubling your logistical efficiency.
All right, Section 3, choosing tank materials.
Moving from the chassis up to the tank itself, the material you select is a huge business decision. On one hand, you've got carbon steel, known as Q235, which offers high strength and a lower manufacturing cost, but it's heavy and it's prone to rust if it isn't properly coated. Contrast that with aluminum alloy 5083. It's lightweight and entirely rust-proof, though yeah, it does come with a higher initial price tag. Then you've got stainless steel. Excellent corrosion resistance for sure, but it's very heavy and expensive, so it's usually reserved for aggressive chemical transport. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it ties back to your bottom line. It's effectively the difference between hauling a rock and hauling a feather. Aluminum has a higher initial cost, yes, but because it is significantly lighter than carbon steel, it drastically reduces the vehicle's empty weight. A lighter tank means you can transport way more fuel per trip without exceeding strict legal road weight limits. That means more product moved and more revenue generated every single time that truck leaves the terminal.
Which brings us to Section 4, crucial safety equipment.
This is absolutely the most critical part of our anatomical build. Before we even look at the hardware, we have to talk about standards. While Chinese domestic trucks operate under national GB standards, Chinese manufacturers can fully adapt their export vehicles to meet rigorous international safety benchmarks. A prime example is the EDR, the European Agreement concerning the international carriage of dangerous goods by road. You can get world-class, globally compliant engineering from China, provided you explicitly spec it out.
So, let's look at what that compliant engineering actually looks like in practice, starting with the emergency shutoff valve, also known as the subsea valve. Installed directly at the bottom of the tank, this is a mandatory fail-safe mechanism. Think about the absolute worst-case scenario. If the truck is involved in a severe collision and the external pipes are completely severed, this valve instantly shuts.
It traps the fuel safely inside the tank and prevents a massive, hazardous liquid spill.
Let's move to and see how this builds into daily operations. Historically, operators used dangerous top-loading practices, literally climbing on top of the tank to fill it. No way. Modern trucks replace this entirely with the API bottom loading system. This standardized ground-level connection ensures a secure, leak-proof link between the truck and the fuel terminal. It completely eliminates the need for operators to scale the vehicle, greatly improving safety and significantly speeding up transfer times.
And bottom loading integrates perfectly with our next feature, the vapor recovery process. Here's how it works. As fuel is pumped into the tank from the bottom, it displaces the highly flammable vapor already inside. Instead of just venting that explosive gas out into the open air around the operators, a vapor recovery system safely captures it and routes those gases right back into the storage facility. This stops dangerous air pollution and drastically reduces explosion risks during loading. Rounding out our essential safety checklist, we have two more vital components. Because flowing fuel naturally generates dangerous static electricity, these trucks utilize anti-static grounding wires and conductive belts to safely discharge that static right into the ground, stopping sparks before they happen. Plus, breathing valves mounted on the manhole covers automatically adjust the internal pressure. If the tank gets dangerously hot, it releases pressure. If it cools rapidly, it lets air in to prevent the structural collapse of the whole tank.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Smart Sourcing from China. Now that we really understand the physical build, let's establish a rigorous framework for actually buying the thing. When sourcing from China's massive manufacturing hubs, you are dealing with incredible customization capabilities. But to get a properly configured vehicle, you have to provide exact data to your supplier. I mean, you need to clearly specify your destination country's regulations, your required payload capacity, the specific fuel type you're moving, your chassis preference, whether you need left-hand or right-hand drive, and your local emission standards. Precise input guarantees precise manufacturing.
You got to remember, while the variety and price points in China are highly attractive, you're evaluating a complete package here. Long-term success is a strict equation: technical specifications plus safety compliance combined with component quality and after-sales support. Evaluating this total long-term value is far more important than just blindly securing the lowest initial purchase quote.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative question for you to consider before your next major equipment procurement. Are you prioritizing the initial price tag, or are you investing in long-term operational safety and compliance? Take this blueprint, demand the right specifications, and build a fleet that is safe, efficient, and highly profitable. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we'll catch you on the next one.